you watched our last Game Sense, you know our stance on the pistols. We think the classic rips, and you should be using it along with utility rather than spending your money on a ghost or sheriff. Plus, you can smash nerds in style with the new Sentinels skin, available in the shop. But still, some of you armchair champions had to jump in the comments and talk shit like you know what you're talking about. Well, to shut these clowns up, we decided to get nerdy with it and prove to you why it's the best pistol in Valorant and why you need to Google Dunning-Kruger and learn how little you actually know. First things first, we all know the right click is insane. It fires a 3-round burst that can easily ruin your opponent's day. Within 30 meters, a headshot with a classic does 78 damage. That means, if your opponent wasted their money on a gun rather than shields, you just need a headshot and a body shot to take them out. But I can already hear you whining. I spam right clicks and it just doesn't work for me. That's because you're awful and you don't know how to optimize your rate of fire. You see, there's a technique to getting the most out of your classic. You're going to want to left click a single shot out and then immediately right click. This will fire 4 rounds at their peak accuracy. If you just spam right clicks, first off, you're going to have a lower rate of fire than the left-right click pattern. Plus, you're going to have more inaccuracy to it. The left-right click will let you empty your clip faster and be more accurate. If you just start doing the left-click, right-click pattern, you're going to already level up your classic play. But that's only part of optimizing the gun. Again, if you watched our Game Sense episode, you know the real secrets of the classic is movement and positioning. You see, since the classic is kind of a random inaccurate gun, you need to close the distance and make yourself as hard of a target to hit as possible. Sure, the classic isn't what it once was when it was first released. Back then, you could be phasing up hitting 360 jump shots with a right click from across the map. Since then, Riot has nerfed the gun, but still, when jumping, the right click has a 2.1 movement penalty. For comparison, that's more accurate than a running sheriff or ghost. If you're within 10 meters, that's really nothing. And this is why you spend your money on utility. Can't get close? Dash in, blast pack, throw a flash. Hell, plop a smoke down and walk into that bitch. Play like a rat. Do whatever you need to make sure you get those kills. The best part is, knowing how mentally weak ranked players are, that shit's gonna tilt them off the planet. There's nothing more frustrating than pushing into a smoke only to get instantly right-clicked. Now, I know I've been praising the right click a lot, but the left click isn't so bad on its own. The running accuracy of the left click is not that bad. It's the exact same as the jumping right click, and it's a great way to pop a few rounds off at the enemy and maybe land a lucky headshot while you're closing the distance to a right click. The secret is to just not spray it. If you can keep your cool and land a headshot with your first left click, and you're following the left-right click technique, you'll be mopping up scrubs in the pistol round all day. I can hear some of you doubters still saying you'd rather have a ghost than a classic plus util, but that's ultimately a selfish decision. First, let's compare the stats of the classic to the ghost. The only shit that really matters is damage and first shot spread. Sure, the ghost can one-tap somebody doing 105 damage. That is, unless they bought shields. And the first shot spread is only 0.1 less than the classic. Is that really worth $500? That $500 could be spent on a smoke or a flash that lets your team close the distance, take the site, and win the round. And you decided it wasn't all worth it because you wanted to ego challenge with a ghost in a 50-50 aim duel, rather than spend that money on util to swing the odds in the favor of you and your team. Still don't believe me? Well, let's take a look at a real example. This comes from all the way back at the opening match of the Sentinels Invitational when we took on MXS on Haven. We're on the defense playing with 4 classics while Zekin has a sheriff, which makes sense since he's holding long C. Since Zekin has C, John QT and Zelsis are playing back on Garage and B, just looking for info, while Tens and Sasi hold A, ready to flash so that they can get some info. If they go B, we can play off the alarm bot and have an easy retake thanks to the utility we've got, since we didn't waste money on pistols. MXS takes some mid control while Flya tries to lurk up sewers. MXS tries to put some pressure on B site, but they get shut down by a nice molly from Zelsis. Hoping that pressure causes somebody to rotate off of A, Flya pushes up into sewers. Unfortunately for him, he walks right into Tens, who's just chilling there with a right click to shut him down. Down a man, MXS tries to re-hit onto B, with the idea of wrapping it to A. Again, Tens is there with a sick paranoia to shut everything down. Blind and with nowhere to go, all MXS can do is fall back onto B, where they get picked apart by close-range duels against the classics. The key takeaways from this round are how we used our utility to shut down MXS's plan, took close-range fights where the classic could really shine, and we didn't take dumb long-range peeks against MXS's ghosts. Even after this example, I can still hear some of you complaining, crying about how this is a pro game and shit like that would never work in ranked. Well, I know how to shut you nerds up. Anyone who is a classic connoisseur knows about RoyalG. He's a streamer who went from unranked to immortal using only the classic, proving that this free gun can absolutely fry. That's why I had to call him up and pick his brain and see what tips he can give to all you ranked grinders.
Hey guys, I'm RoyalG. Some of you guys might know me for Classic to Immortal and other challenges that I do on my YouTube channel.
Bro, they're flanking, bro.
If you think the Classic sucks in 2024, you are delusional, and you need to start hitting the aim training immediately. Because the Classic, if you were like me who came from CS:GO, like the Glock does like 30 damage for a headshot on armored opponents. That means you need like 4 headshots to kill someone. Like with the Classic, if you can 2-tap someone in the head and you have an ability or you have an alternate fire that lets you shoot 3 bullets at once at close range, you already have like the makings of an amazing free gun. So, I mean, as weird as it sounds, like I would choose Classic over like most of the pistols in the game. I think one thing I learned with the Classic, I know how everyone kind of says like the right click is super OP and that like you just want to like jumping right click people and all that stuff. I mean, it got nerfed, but it was still really strong. And I think a lot of people kind of use it as a crutch more often than not. One thing that I tried to actively train myself out of was relying on the right click in stressful situations. I think I found the most value when I started taking my time and really keeping a calm mind while shooting the Classic. I'm just gonna like do taps, tap for the head. What's really cool about the Classic is that it's like a 2-shot headshot at like short to mid range. So it's really just about making sure you keep your composure and don't start just like praying that your right clicks are just going to land at a distance. When you're playing with a Classic, you can't really play it like you play with a Vandal or another rifle. So the playstyle that I had to change significantly. Usually I play a mix of different Sentinels for my normal ranked gameplay, but what I found was that if I'm playing a Sentinel and I have a really weak gun, it's really hard to hold sights by myself. So I had to actually end up switching over to things like Phoenix and maybe using some Viper in order to be able to give myself at least a fighting chance in certain situations. So I had to kind of like reorganize my whole gameplay strategy and everything to match the Classic. Generally speaking, I think the best agents for using a Classic are just any agents where you can get a very solid buy-in with a Classic and armor. So agents with like 200 credit denominations or ability to kind of use up your utility, like use up the utility for something important. Classic itself is already really strong. The Ghost isn't even that much better because if you just buy armor, the Ghost kind of functions like the Classic anyways. So you might as well get yourself a lot of utility on any agents that can afford it. The only times that I would say that like an agent isn't really good with the Classic is for agents that have kind of low quality utility or utility that doesn't really fit for their role at the moment. Potentially, for example, like Cypher, perhaps you might want to use a Ghost because you have cages that might be useful for trip.
Only I could see you.
Spike down, B.
As always, I have a YouTube channel at RoyalG. So if you want to find that, I do a lot of different challenges. Recently, I started a sheriff-only challenge to Radiant. I don't know if that's possible, but I'm going to try to challenge myself on that and see if we can push the limits and really take it to the top. But you can find me on Twitter, TikTok. I'm always around. I'm streaming on Twitch. Come say hi.
So, there you have it. The Classic fucking rips, and if you're buying anything besides a shield and util on the pistol round, you're a clown. Also, with the Classic, you can rep Sen City while you're hitting jump shots and making them tear their hair out.